Pretty good. Hello, world. It's me, Riley Soliner. This is Clash Clown, conspiring, countercultural, crafty, collective, creative clowns, right? Okay. Here's the episode that is supposed to be 7 episodes late, the thesis of the show, right? Took me a minute, took me some finding my feet, my sea legs, my CC legs, Clash Clown legs. I'm stalling, buddy. I'm going to get through it. And it's the first of many. And hey, pretty soon I'll have guests to confirm my biases and we can create an echo chamber together. It's going to be great. But first, let me paint you a picture, okay? I'm a teenager and I'm watching School of Rock starring Jack Black. And there's the beautiful montage with all the kids learning from Jack how to rock, and they're getting better and better at playing their instruments. And what song is playing during that montage? It's a rockin' tune with a rock and roll singer belting it out, a melody of passion. And there's a fun little glockenspiel in there too, just to make it whimsical, makes it feel like there's some kind of dream defining progress taking place. It's Bonzo Goes to Bitburg by one of my favorite bands, the Ramones. You've got to pick up the pieces. Come on, sort your trash. Better pull yourself back together. Maybe you've got too much cash. You better call the law. When you going to turn yourself in? You're a politician. Don't become one of Hitler's children. Bonzo Goes to Bitburg, then goes out for a cup of tea. As I watched it on TV, somehow it really bothered me. Drank in all the bars in town for your foreign policy. Pick up the pieces. Wah, 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 wah. My brain is hanging upside down. Wah, 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 wah. I need something to slow me down. Should have wished her happiness. Wish her the very best. $50,000 dress. Shaking hands with your highness, see through you like cellophane. You watch the world complain, but you do it anyway. Who am I to say Bonzo Goes to Bitburg, then goes out for a cup of tea? As I watched it on TV, somehow it really bothered me. Drank in all the bars in town to extend your foreign policy. Pick up the pieces. My brain is hanging upside down. If there's one thing that makes me sick, it's when someone tries to hide behind politics. Wish that time could go by fast. Somehow they manage to make it last. Why is this song? Why are these lyrics in School of Rock? This is a song about the physical, the mental turned physical illness of Joey Ramone and Dee Dee Ramone manifesting when they heard the news that President Ronald Reagan was going to go to a Nazi veteran graveyard in Bitburg, Germany, to honor the German soldiers in an act of what, diplomacy of some kind, and it made it made Joey Ramone sick, made Dee Dee sick. I don't know, but it's just another catchy little Ramones song, right? But I think it's one of their best written songs, and it's coming from a very real and deep place at a time when the band, I mean, it's on an album called Animal Boy, which is a very mid-career Ramones album, and, this is kind of one of those standouts where it's like it feels like all of the focus, all of the energy of that album is kinda siphoned into this one track. There's another track on there, that's another one of my favorite Ramones songs called "Something to Believe In." I'll recite the lyrics from that song on another episode. From memory, by the way, for those of you who are not tuned into the live video, didn't didn't look at one note, didn't have to. Anyway, um, that song for me is just one of those beacons, one of those s- lighthouses for me creatively of this band that maybe wasn't always taken seriously, but put their heart, their emotions into a disarmingly sincere message of anger at tyrants, right? Okay. How about another picture? How about sitting around a giant fire circle at Camp Winter Rainbow? It's a fire circle night, which means we're doing a talent show around the fire. No competition, just everyone sharing what's in their hearts and what they want to bring to the circle. And my close old friend Jordan P., the musical savant, the song leader of Camp Winter Rainbow for many years now, is performing with Maya. I believe they perform a gentle cover of Someday by the Strokes, and then maybe one or two other songs. And then unplanned, this was before the kids got here. This was the fire circle during adult staff training. But this was a killer move in my opinion. He just starts strumming the chords of Masters of War by Bob Dylan. Ooh, and I knew where he was going right away. And he gave such a sick rendition, beautiful tribute, perfectly timed delivery of Masters of War. To this day, he still posts every day of these. He posts screenshots of these texts, these text blasts that he gets of just what happened that day in Gaza, and so he's always keeping that on his mind, and he's always trying to share that with the people who follow him. And so a song like Masters of War, if and I can't recite the lyrics to Masters of War from memory, but I've been thinking about memorizing that one too. But if you don't know Masters of War by Bob Dylan, pause, go read them, listen to Bob Dylan singing it. Anyway, just another guy telling you to listen to Bob Dylan. Where am I going with this? Well, I've talked about wrestling. I've talked about teaching clowning. I've talked about influences like Gene Taylor and Patch and Wavy. And I've even talked about this in episode 0 and my feelings of intimidation around opening up about what this podcast is really supposed to be about. The thesis, what the hypothesis, what uh the the reason for the name of the podcast, right? If I'm trying to be somewhat like the Clash's music through a clown lens, if I'm trying to be a little bit like Joe Strummer as a writer and a thinker and as someone who got other people to write and think, the anti-fascist clown thing, I don't even like using the buzzword, right? It brings up a lot. And mostly because, and I'll get to a lot of this, it's this it's this inadequacy feeling. It's this fear. It's this shame feeling, right? Do you feel it too? It's why I waited 2 years to start this show. The feeling of not ready, not qualified, not appropriate, not the right move. Hey, but here I am, 7 episodes in. Thank you for listening, by the way. Email clashclownpod@gmail. Oh, brother. I guess I'll start here. I check on Reddit daily, sue me. It's where I get a lot of my news. It's where I scroll headlines. It's where I keep up with everyone complaining that pro wrestling is either not good enough or it's too good. And I got my algorithm fed me a headline or two from the subreddit that is just simply conservative, the online conservative community, right? Probably in a ploy to get me to react to something, and boy, it worked, right? So now with morbid curiosity, every once in a while, I just click around on our conservative. It sucks, man. It sucks. And I guess the thing that really strikes the most sensitive chord is when I see a comment like these leftists, they'll call anything fascist. They'll call anyone Nazis. These what? These leftists, these nerds, what? These F slurs, what? I mean, they're more buttoned down than to actually throw shit around like that. But um the message is they don't know what fascism is. They'll call anything fascism. They call anything they don't like. They'll call anyone they don't like Nazis. Grow up, calm down, etc. Right? And this is such a genius way to strike a chord with someone who is feeling intimidated to speak up or at least even speak my mind on a podcast that not that many people listen to. Mostly as like a personal exercise, right? So what's coming up? A combination of shame and fear, which manifests into hesitation, reluctance, and then just kind of a cycle of go the recursive go back to shame and fear, let it fester, let it paralyze me. And then just there's then just an unwillingness to touch it, unwillingness to have a sense of humor with it, have an unwillingness to have a curiosity with the shame and the fear that I'm even feeling. It's just too hot, right? I just finished teaching another one of my clown classes. 7 weeks at Brooklyn Comedy Collective. Week 7 was this beautiful love fest. It was supposed to be kind of a little bit more frantic, time to throw together a show and really brainstorm how to make it the best show it could be. But we needed to take something like I do this exercise that sometimes it doesn't take this long, but it took 40 minutes in the last class for everyone to stand across from each other and just deliver compliments based on what they've observed in their classmates over the last 7 weeks. And it was just such a kind uh, marathon of people really sharing deeply about what they saw in these people that they only met 7 weeks ago. I couldn't ask them to speed it up just because we had a show. It was too good. And the show went terrifically. We did a show 2 days ago. And just thinking about the earliest moments in the first week of the class when I had students who were really reluctant to open up verbally or stand up in front of everybody and try a very basic, sharing moment or to step forward moment, to make eye contact moment. And to see people now dressed ridiculously, doing absurd, quote unquote, talents, and just really, really allowing themselves to be present in front of strangers and really connect with strangers was it's a privilege. It's an honor. I don't take it lightly that this is what I do now and that I get to do this. I'm very, very happy to do this and to witness. people changing over 7 weeks in this really fun, silly way. People just being open to this, being open in general from where they started. And so I think about these students, I think about how I have this space that I'm in charge of facilitating to allow them to be open in this way. And I think about all this shame and fear that is causing me to hesitate. And I start to think about, okay, well, you know, you enrolled in this, you enrolled yourself in this. Therefore, do what you said you were going to do. Show up. Okay, I've been showing up. Take it seriously. Okay, yeah, I'm taking it seriously. Do the thing that you said you were going to do. Ooh, okay. What would I tell myself as a student? How would I not just push them onto the stage, but invite them onto the stage? Invite them to take a chance, right? And some of the things I tell students in the earliest days, in the earliest hours of our classes are things like, okay, well, we're going to inhabit a character where we're going to look at the world through fresh eyes. And we're going to be very interested. We're going to be very curious. And maybe if we meet eyes with someone else in the room, we're going to gently test the waters of reaching out and making a connection. Maybe it'll be a distant one, maybe it'll be a brief one, but maybe you can really make a connection just by leading with this curious, open, not leading with fear kind of energy in your heart and in your face and in your gut. And, don't fake it. Don't give me what your preconceived notions of what a clown is. Just be sincere. Let the mask, the nose, do the work. You're going to look ridiculous anyway, but prioritize making that connection. And then, of course, don't let this fear of failure or don't let failure itself stop you. The clown is not undone by dilemma. We love clowns because they either don't even recognize how they failed or they do and then they keep going or they try again. 3 tries in the circus. Okay. So once again, part of this exercise in doing this show is, can I remember these tenets in this theatrical sense and port them over to trying to talk about the stuff that matters to me in a way that allows me to make a connection with you. So let's start with seeing the world with fresh eyes, right? I don't think it's a coincidence. I haven't read it yet, but I find it very interesting that Charlie Chaplin's memoir is called A Clown Sees the World. What do I see, right? These leftists, they wouldn't know what fascism really is. They'll call anything fascism. Okay, well, okay. Uh, one of the great quotes that I learned from Barrow Group from a storytelling teacher whose name escapes me right now, shamefully. He told me art isn't about answering questions; it's about circling the questions. Can we just circle the questions? Can we walk around the question over and over and over again until we get we get somewhere new? We find something new. So maybe I don't have a textbook definition of fascism. Maybe I don't even know what it is. Maybe I don't. And maybe I can get comfortable knowing less than I think I do, right? But when I look at the world and I see a Nazi salute, I see repeated Nazi salutes. I see multiple people doing Nazi salutes at political rallies and speeches. Hmm, that is curious to say the least. When I see consolidation of power by wealthy cult of personality types. Okay, am I off base there? Is that too biased? Is that too extreme? Or is that have we do other people see that happening? I think so. How about demonizing poor people or immigrants or transgender people or the disabled? Do we see that? Is it okay that I don't know that I'm not a scholar on geopolitics and the rise of fascism, but I know just enough to see history repeating or at least rhyming in that way? Just circling the questions. Okay, I see maybe loyalists completely unqualified for jobs that they're just being installed into by the cults of personality that they're loyal to. Is that near fascism? Is that close? Am I catching a whiff, right? What about blind patriotism? What about patriotism in a form that really has nothing to do with loving anything? Maybe that's too much of a judgment call. Maybe I'm overstepping. Maybe I just overstepped. Maybe that was too emotional, right? I maybe I can share an idea that I've had about patriotism for a while, but I've never really expressed it anywhere. Like if we could think of our country as like instead of a business like some people do. And again, isn't that kind of a fascist thing, right? Can we get to that a little bit later? But instead of thinking about it as a business, what if we thought about our country like a family, right? Or maybe not even a family. What if we thought about the infrastructure and the ideals and just our country as a family member, like a grandpa, right? And if we truly loved, if we were patriotic and loyal and loving to our grandpa, and he had a giant arsenal of weapons, and our grandpa had an incredible, like an unfathomable amount of material wealth, but also an insane amount of debt. Would we would we love our grandpa unconditionally and not question him at all? If our grandpa's physical resources were being taxed and, the thing like his walker, if that thing that held him up was collapsing, if if his if his physical nature, like, his organs were failing, if okay, and a bunch of other, metaphors, right? If all these things were happening, would it be unloving to pragmatically, compassionately point out some flaws? This is the point that I maybe is overly simplistic when it comes to patriotism, right? But uh, to quote Lou Reed, this is no time for country right or wrong. There's no time for our country right or wrong. Remember what that brought from the song There Is No Time, right? It's like, wouldn't it be kind of blind, kind of sinister to say, no, grandpa's doing great. Grandpa is the greatest grandpa in the world. Don't tell us, don't tell grandpa how to spend his money. And don't tell grandpa who he can or cannot kill or imprison. And is there something dictatorial about the way that we're just allowing grandpa to trudge along until calamity? Just the question, just circling questions. So this is what I see. And, you know, I it comes back to shame and fear because some know-it-all without a face, without a name, writes something that I happen to see, and it just cuts deep because I'm never gonna feel adequate. I'm never going to feel up to the challenge. I'm never going to feel smart enough to debate them, right? Or, fucking own them online. And then I remember that I'm a clown and that I take pride in my ownership of calling myself a clown, looking back fondly on memories of performing or just witnessing loved ones be clowns both on stage and just in life, and share clown philosophy. And that's something that is interesting to me now, and it's something I delight in. And mm, and then I go back to the lessons that I've learned through taking these classes and learning from these theatrical clowns, not not knowing to stop me, not allowing fear to stop me, not allowing dilemma to stop me. So there's some big dilemmas here. And beyond the personal and the intellectual, it's like a societal thing that seems insurmountable enough to make you want to disconnect from everything. And I don't blame you if you need to do that from time to time. But uh, gosh, another clown thing, like making big promises and, with a big dream or desire as the seed. And so this podcast was a dream and a desire, and it's born out of a deeper and a bigger one that I don't know if I don't know what it's going to look like to make good on this promise I'm trying to make to myself and to you. But this is where I've gotten my info. This is where I've gotten my inspiration. And this is the Venn diagram that I like to dance in for now. And this is what I want to share with you. And so I'm doing my best to. I mean, this whole episode has felt very tiptoey and careful. I'm looking at a lot of notes, and I this whole I would all of the good, like, feeling inspired, the relief of doing it, it all kind of feels like it has led up to me flopping right here, right now. Just a huge flop. Shout out to hugeflop.com, where you can find out more about clown shows and clown classes happening in the New York area. Hugeflop.com. Wow, I'm doing unpaid sponsor. Anyway, big flop. But Abner Eisenberg, who is a really insanely intelligent, long time clown and clown teacher. I listened to a podcast with him recently, and he kind of flipped a lot of. I know it's going to affect how I teach from now on, but he was asked a question about the flop, you know, and he got kind. I could tell that he got frustrated in that moment. And he started saying something along the lines of like, "This whole thing about the flop has been taken out of context. I'm so tired of it." Like, yes, there's a flop, but the flop isn't what's funny. Yes, anyone can fail. And it's not the failure that's funny. It's it's how interesting the clown finds the failure. and it's about what you do after it. It's the attempt to solve the problem after the flop. It's I think I'm paraphrasing, but it's about the connection you make through failure, people witnessing your failure, right? Have I already said? I don't remember where this quote is from. The only failure is the failure to acknowledge the failure. So I'm not sure yet what failing is in this context of doing this show. I'm okay with this show not having a huge reach. I'm okay with not having any guests on right now. I'm okay with people. Ooh, am I okay with people calling me stupid? Am I okay with people? I don't know. We'll find out if and when someone really starts to, if the debate me crowd makes it to this show. I don't know. Oh God, there was another point I wanted to make. I'm a clown like those who've inspired me. They were insanely committed, compassionate, didn't mind looking ridiculous. But beneath the performance and beneath those lifestyle elements of what I just mentioned, there's also this intellectual intellectual wealth and intellectual curiosity. And I want that to be a part of clowning too. I think a big part of the reason improv kind of became a bubble that burst in New York is because people saw it as a way to get on television rather than an art form to appreciate for what it is. People saw the various improv theaters in New York, especially UCB, as a pipeline to industrial foot in the door to industrial acknowledgement and potentially success. And therefore, you don't have to like other stuff to make you interesting on stage. You just have to be likable. And you just have to know the rules enough to kind of play around them and put together what may be a technically good scene about nothing that reveals nothing about the artist performing. I'm being pretty reductive here. But okay, years have gone by. People are curious about clowning, kind of cookie cut into the same mold as an improv class. You can learn these skills and then use them to get on stage and make friends. And I'm not trying too hard to push people through this door in the class, but I feel a responsibility when I teach to really put my whole ass into making it a, a breeding ground for some kind of a breakthrough, some kind of awakening to, oh, this actually just feels really good, and feeling really good around other people is a real thing that doesn't really have to be tied to like a validation of my cleverness, but instead I can internally validate. I'm off on a tangent, right? Clown is dot dot dot. I know that in the first episode I read from a document where when I find a quote, when a clown is talking about what clown is, I just have a list of clown is blank statements from performers and teachers. And long before I read this Reddit comment about these leftists, they don't even know what fascism is. For this project, I thought, well, I should start collecting fascism is right next to the clown is statements. so that maybe I don't know what fascism is, but maybe I can look at this document and I can start to contrast and compare what my ideas are with what some people who seem to know what they're talking about have to say, right? The most recent one I have is attributed to some street art. So it's unknown, it's anonymous, and maybe some people don't see it this way, but it reads fascism is capitalism in decay. Okay. Do I need to elaborate? Here's one from the Holocaust Encyclopedia. Fascism is a far right political philosophy or theory of government that emerged in the early 20th century. Fascism prioritizes the nation over the individual who exists to serve the nation. Here's another one from Holocaust Encyclopedia. Fascism is an ultranationalist, authoritarian political philosophy. It combines elements of nationalism, militarism, economic self-sufficiency, and totalitarianism. It opposes communism, socialism, pluralism, individual rights and equality, and democratic government. So, again, do I have to elaborate, or do we see fascism's antithesis as potential virtues of the clown? Individual rights, pluralism, maybe not. I mean, when I look at a line like prioritizes nation over the individual who exists to serve the nation, and no room for some kind of inquisitive thought of an alternative. From the Oxford English Dictionary, fascism is an authoritarian and nationalistic right-wing system of government and social organization, further specifying that in general it's used to mean an extreme right-wing authoritarian or intolerant views or practice. Let me find a fucking these are I mean the definitions are okay, but like what's something that strikes me, you know? How about Bertolt Brecht? Fascism is the nakedest, most shameless, most oppressive, and most treacherous form of capitalism. Pavel Vargan. Fascism is colonialism turned inwards. Emilio Gentile. Fascism is the sacralization of politics through totalitarian methods. Benito Mussolini says fascism is everything in the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. Okay. I was thinking of starting a segment once I finally work up the courage to invite guests, a segment called Clown or Fascism. And I read quotes from these documents and I ask the guests if they can figure out if the quote is either talking about clown or fascism. Ha ha. All right. So, here I am trying to overcompensate intellectually for something that I'm just trying to feel out intuitively first. And it's getting boring because I'm just reading dictionary definitions because I'm that scared to say the wrong thing. Yeah, it's going to take, you know what? Here's another thing. Part of the reason that I've become so confident as a clown teacher is because I've been through the class enough times. I think I've taught 5 7-week classes at this point, and I'm relaxed. I'm confident that there's going to be progress made, progress that surprises the students themselves and surprises me, even though I've already done this. And it's just a matter of first of all, staying in class, come back to class, open your heart and your mind to this, pay attention, and be patient and practice. So I guess that's another thing I would tell a student who's overthinking and who's reluctant and who's maybe a little ashamed or afraid of looking ridiculous is be patient and continue showing up. And I was certainly God, wow, is this the 7th week of me doing this show? Okay, that's funny. Week 1, I was I was nervous and I was afraid, and I had to remind myself of the virtues and the qualities of the fool, number 0. Here I am 7 weeks later doing the thesis of the show. Okay, that's a win, right? Maybe it's not the biggest win, but also in 7 weeks, hey, you get to do your first clown show. So again, there's a forgiveness, there's a patience that I need to extend to myself that I ask the students to extend to themselves. Here's another chord striker. Here's another l- line that cuts. Okay, it's a headline from satirical feminist news joke site Reductress. Right, I saw a video on Instagram. There's like a character video uh, for one of their headlines. The joy is wait, what is it? Okay, here it is. Remember, the joy is subversive enough. I'm supposed to calm myself down with that statement. I've gotten so much inspiration, pleasure, and peace of mind from Gene Taylor telling me the joy is subversive enough, right? Well, reductress headline: Joy is an act of subversion, says white woman who engages in no other act of resistance. Ha ha ha, right? I gotta laugh at myself because here I am calling everyone a Nazi, calling everything fascist. And then here I am sitting in my bedroom making a weekly podcast about how I'm an anti fascist clown. Meh. And I'm really doing something here, man, with my Bob Dylan and my one meaningful Ramones song. And my clown philosophy is going to change the world because the joy is subversive enough from a little white clown who participates in no other act of subversion. So what do I do with this? What am I supposed to do? Because I know I'm not doing enough, but that's another tool used against me is this idea that nothing is ever enough, right? So what do I do here? Well, I can continue showing up, and what am I supposed to do? Not be joyful? Practicing joy and practicing facilitating joy for other people is largely why I'm even around. So I need that. And maybe I can acknowledge that the joy isn't all that is needed for subversion. Maybe it isn't always enough. Can we just say the joy is subversive, right? Maybe it's not the subversive panacea that is going to topple everything, right? But can we look at it as a seed? Can we look at it as the the first grain of sand to fall from the midpoint of the hourglass that is going to maybe motivate other change, other shoes to drop? It's the joy of relief in doing this show and feeling okay with it, and the relief of people reaching out to be to share encouragement and let me know that they feel similarly and that maybe their mind has been open to something that they didn't consider in this way before, that has let me know that it's okay to keep doing this. So maybe the joy is not everything. Maybe it isn't fully an act of subversion, right? But I need it. I think you need it. And I see so much absence of joy, whether it's in the fucking faces of the people who support the terror that America inflicts upon its own citizens and to people around the world. I mean, I see like a misplaced joy. I see the joy of crushing ants. I see the joy of ridicule. I see the joy of blind patriotism with absolutely nothing behind it. I see a lot of misplaced joy, or I see just like sneering and calling it joy. Maybe that's a judgment call. Maybe they are really happy, but I mean, I don't really see that. I see a real uptight, odious simulation of joy. I see people with shit smeared on their face going, "No, no, I love this. No, I'm really happy." Which would make a good clown act, but I'm I digress. Yeah, I think it's gonna take a lot more for me to not feel guilty and inadequate and like I'm not doing enough when I wave my little, "Well, be joyful" thing. Maybe that's not enough, and maybe that's not what everyone needs to hear. And I recognize, here we go, that it comes from a place of privilege and luck and good circumstances that I can even be audacious enough to say something like the joy is subversive enough. But let's call it a straw on the camel's back. Let's call it an element that allows the rest of this to be sustainable. I did my show on Twitch Googie Morning through the pandemic, through quarantine, and after the quarantine was lifted. And very quickly, this show pivoted from, let me just be Vacation Jason, to, oh shit, we all saw George Floyd die live on camera. And we need to talk, we need to process, and I wanted to read. And I turned the show into like week on book club, week off. Let's just make art and let me try doing some ridiculous, absurdist ideas. Week on, let's read another book and then I'll do a book report. And it's just another hearkening back to my my clown influences aren't just walking around flopping and giggling. I love them because I could have a real deep conversation with them about anything. So a clown sees the world. I can't not see the world. And so I don't want to turn away from what I see. So I don't want to let I don't want to let go of joy, but I also don't want to hold on to it like it's the only thing. And I don't want to I don't want to grab and hold on to this reign of, well, I really got to read my theory and I really got to practice my theory and I really got to meet and I really have to organize and I really have to, maybe I don't have to do it all at once, right? Maybe 7 weeks at a time, I go to class, I get feedback, and I try my hand at growing, just like my students do. So that's where I'm at with all this shit. And this is the episode it still feels like the biggest challenge to get out. And in some ways, I'm not looking forward to the feedback. But then again, I love every bit of feedback that I get. And what am I really afraid of here? Here's what I'm a fucking afraid of. God damn it. Comedians and their fucking sycophantic, brainwashed fan bases. Have you seen comedy today? Fuck these fucking bootlickers, these fucking racist ass, authoritarian, anti intellectuals posing as against the grain, free thinking comedians, modern day philosophers, just trying to make you uncomfortable with the truth. All right. I know it's now hacked to even complain about these guys, but they're the richest motherfuckers in the world, calling themselves the underdogs. You know. But yes, I'm afraid of their fan bases, these cyber bullies who fucking ride or die for these guys. So, yeah, don't even want to call myself a comedian. I'm not doing that many shows these days anyway. Why call myself a comedian? I'm a clown. I see the world. I turn other people into clowns, and I'm enjoying that. Um, I think that's what I have for you today. I think that's all that. Looking over my notes one more time. That's pretty much it. I would love to talk to some of my smarter friends about this stuff. I would love to talk to people who, whether or not they see eye to eye with me on the clown thing, if I just want to talk. I want to talk to you. So pretty soon, I mean, I got a couple other episodes I'm thinking about doing a solo thing. The main experiment here was I was going to do 10 episodes and then assess where I want to go from there. So what? Episode number 6, technically episode 7, because there is an episode 0 and I'm annoying. But that's this one. Wow, week 7. It's funny how that worked out. I didn't even think of that before I started. So email me at clashclownpod@gmail. Thank you for listening. Always happy to hear from you. We're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube now. You could even leave a review on Apple. See what that does for me. I I don't mind though. I more than anything, I just want to hear from you. I'm talking to you right now. So thank you for being here. Have a lovely week. Here's my melodica. Ha! Get along, get along. Bye for now.